Hello everyone, Kanasa here, and welcome back to Coming Home Redux. In this episode, and probably the next two episodes that we are going to be focusing on, we are going to be setting up our first massive, ginormous, absolutely ridiculous surface base over on Armstrong. So, for the majority of this episode actually, I did this on a stream, on a couple of live streams. So if you want to see most of what we put down actually done in real time, rather than being sped up 4 times speed like I do in these episodes, or even more speed actually some of the time, well, you can go and check out the live streams. I don't know if YouTube still does cards, but if it does, I guess I'll put a card to it now. So this first thing that we are launching is going to be some machinery to the totally reliable assembly platform, because I need machinery on that surface base, and at the moment I don't have any in orbit. No, I needed more. So in order to actually put that into our vessel, once we construct it, we do need to send some up from the surface of road. What I tried to do there as well with the multi-tracking vessel view, I was attempting to do a return to launch site using the first stage of the Centurion rocket that we used in order to send this up, because the payload here was only 33 tons. This only weighed 33 tons when we got it to orbit, and that vehicle is capable of taking 75 tons to low road orbit, or thereabout. So I thought, yes, we can try an RTLS, and unfortunately, it did not go very well. Obviously, I've not really designed that launch vehicle for performing that sort of function. I think it's something that I do want to do later on in this series, absolutely, because it's very cool when that works. But unfortunately, I am going to have to properly design that rather than, just hope for the best because we've got a lighter payload on board. Anyway, we are building the first piece of the Aldrin base. This is going to essentially be a factory module. It's going to have absolutely everything on it that really one could want in order to produce material kits, specialized parts, chemicals, all of the good stuff that we are going to need in order to essentially, make a self-sufficient base on the surface of Armstrong. We've got a nuclear reprocessor, which is going to be much better than the nuclear whirligig reprocessor that we have down at Nuke Base 1 at the moment. It is better in so many ways, in the fact that it takes the enriched uranium and actually deposits it, that's quite hard to say quite fast, anywhere on the vessel rather than sticking it back into the part that creates it. That way I don't have to babysit it, and it also produces enriched uranium much faster than that whirligig reprocessor, which is absolutely fabulous. That does mean that we are going to be producing multiple amounts or loads of enriched uranium, which is going to be really great. It means we can produce a lot more fission pellets, and hopefully that means we can do lots more interplanetary missions with this new design of surface base. Obviously, it does have to be crewed and everything has to be set up before we are going to be going into that. What we are doing right now is actually burning over to Armstrong using this, and using the feature on MechJeb that people had told me about that I'd never learnt about. So we are using a differential throttle, I believe is what it's called. And basically, if you have a vehicle with multiple engines that has all sorts of wonky center of mass, so the center of mass isn't central, the thrust isn't firing through the center of mass, well, MechJeb has a function that will automatically toggle or adjust the thrust limiter on those engines so that you don't go flying all over the place. It's brilliant, it's amazing. I can't believe I didn't know about this feature before. I'm so happy that that people have told me about it, because it is going to really help with these kind of weird asymmetrical designs. Anyway, we did land on the surface of Armstrong, and I realized we were on a little bit of an incline. We were on a bit of a boundary of slopage. Yeah, that's, where is my brain going there? I honestly don't know. So I decided what we're going to do is we are actually going to take off again and fly somewhere that was a little bit flatter. Obviously, I want this to be quite large, so the flatter it is, the better. We can expand greatly. So now what we're doing is coming back, and this was me testing out some designs for some sort of construction rover with a crane. Obviously, the first one was not all of that good and wobbled all over the place, so I decided let's just throw some tank treads on it. If in doubt, use tank treads. They're so much more stable. Those wheels from the construction mod did seem to be a bit janky, but actually this, the crawler is what I've decided to name it, was much more stable when we added those tank treads. And what we're going to do is we are going to come to Colonisation and we are going to build that there. So the reason why I built the first piece at Trap rather than Colonisation, obviously Colonisation is much closer to Armstrong, being in orbit of Armstrong. Well, there were a lot more material kits, enriched uranium, all of that kind of good stuff on the totally reliable assembly platform. And I thought, well, in order to just not have a bit of a headache transferring all of those across to Colonisation and ensuring that I had enough material kits and specialized parts to build that, we'd build it further away and then we'd just move it over. Other pieces of this surface base, though, however, we will be building at Colonisation because obviously it is, as I've just mentioned, in orbit of Armstrong, so it'll be really easy to send pieces down, like the crawler right now. Don't even have to perform any sort of, well, maneuver burns over to Armstrong, because we're already there. We are already there, and the crew on Colonisation is more than capable of building these giant vehicles that we will be setting down. Like so, we have got the crawler down. Now we're just going to ditch the sky crane sort of module that did bring it down, and attempt to drive this a little bit closer to that surface base, the original part of the surface base that we set down already. Unfortunately, despite testing this on road, well, this does not move anywhere near as well as it did on road. Obviously, Armstrong has a very low gravity environment. It is a very small moon, and that means driving this around is going to be a massive pain. But it was kind of alright. It's just going to take me a while to get everything all sorted. But we can see that that crane does move, and that is brilliant. And I have designed something that we will be able to move around with that crane. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet because I've not actually done that. Yes, all my pre-recorded footage is now gone, and I'm having to film as I edit, which is always a little bit more stressful, but hopefully I should still be able to maintain a steady upload schedule. Anyway, what we're doing now is coming into the Manta and doing a bit of a redesign. We're adding some more habitation, and we are also going to be adding VTOL engines so that it is much easier to land on the surface of a vacuum moon or world, rather than, you know, burning the engines at the back and then doing a flip once we get really close to the ground. Well, we're going to be able to activate the VTOL capabilities of this vehicle and hopefully fly down and touch down on our wheels rather nicely. So I did keep up that section of the video to show you who was the crew for this mission, and unfortunately I was talking about something completely different whilst I was looking at that. So if you want to see who the crew are for this mission, then maybe pause at that section. I know we had Jack Sparrow, and we had Hugh Cock as well. Hopefully I don't get demonetized for that name being in this video. I would like to think so, and there was one other new Kerbal that we do have on this mission as well. So this was a little bit weird, and it was a little bit annoying. Basically, I forgot to fine-tune my MechJeb ascent guidance settings again on this. So the Manta has a very specific way of getting up to orbit, otherwise it goes for a much too shallow trajectory once we are really ascending through the atmosphere, and it ends up not getting to orbit. So what I was doing there was I was actually fighting with ascent guidance to try and stop that from happening, because yeah, I was a bit of a donut and I forgot to change that when we launched. Because of that, we were able to get to orbit, and we were able to safely recover the booster, apart from losing the nose cone, which was less than ideal. And we also happened to lose a little section on the Manta, one part of the liquid fuel storage, which is not good. We can see it there, just missing. This is when I noticed it, and I was like, oh god, we've missed it. But because of that, we expended way more Delta V than I would have liked to get into orbit. And I thought, well, we don't really have enough Delta V now to do a landing on Armstrong and get back safely to road. And then it hit me. We have a ginormous space station around Armstrong that has a ridiculous amount of fuel in it. Or we can just use that to refuel the Manta. So originally the idea for this was to just go to the surface of Armstrong and just go and not have to worry about anything. But because we expended too much fuel, I thought, yeah, well, let's refuel this before we land, and then that way I know that we will have more than enough fuel to get back. Like, we've got 5,000, 6,000 meters per second of Delta V on the surface of Armstrong. That Delta V was changing there rather rapidly. I'm not sure what was going on. Oh, it might, I know why. It's because we were using the VTOL engines rather than the actual engines on the back, and that probably made these stock Delta V readouts being all sorts of wonky. So what we're doing now is releasing a refinery module, and that's all we're going to get to see of that. Basically, I did that in a live stream, and I don't know why. If you were in the live stream, you probably saw it, but the game footage completely cut out. I could see it perfectly fine. I knew exactly what I was doing, and everything was working as it should be. But unfortunately, yes, the recording and the stream just froze completely. But what we did do was we did land that refinery module. We got a Kerbal out of the Manta that we did land, and we connected the two modules together, which we will see once we get down with this first silo module. This is just going to be a storage silo. Essentially, this one, I can't remember exactly what this is going to contain, but we're going to have several of these, which will have all of the supplies that we are possibly going to want on the surface of Aldrin to Armstrong, even. it's the Aldrin base. Not Aldrin isn't the moon, but yeah, no, we're going to keep all of our supplies that we are going to possibly want. We can use USI planetary logistics in order to move them into here as well from separate miners that we are going to have in different parts of Armstrong, which is going to be great. But unfortunately, that will have to wait for a future episode, because that will be it for this one. I have been Karnasa, and I will see you later.